space where I've been able to grow, to understand, to learn, to accept, to to listen, to be vulnerable. To me, it's like home.
I mean, I'm so pleased that this sort of organisation exists.
Yeah.
That young people are being brought together and talking about activism. Whereas it was the sort of thing we did in grubby back rooms and each other's sitting rooms and things.
Yeah.
I felt that just, the personal was political, just living as an out lesbian. When I first came out, I thought I was the only one in the world. This is before the internet, before any representation on television, on film. This is why I'm really interested in your project, because the whole kind of thing about invisibility.
Legally Black is a campaign to highlight the issues of underrepresentation and misrepresentation of Black people in the media. So what we did is that we turned iconic film and TV posters from all white characters to all Black characters and put it on bus stops.
I really got involved in activism and shouting quite a lot when Clause 28 was announced. And I went on all the marches and I wrote to my MP and I talked to everybody about it. And unfortunately we lost. I felt utterly defeated. And in that defeat I thought, what are we going to do now? My girlfriend at the time had the idea that we'd join the Pride Committee.
Yeah.
Because it was, marching, shouting. It was very much a political, community organised event then.
For me, Black Pride, I feel like is important because, the Black LGBTQ+ community, I feel like they can be ostracised a lot. A part of me does feel invisible, even within the Black community, but I feel like, I have pride in who I am, and that's what makes me feel included. Like I include myself into those spaces, and I don't feel as invisible as I used to, for example. When you go to Pride, for me, you just have that kind of feeling. I don't think it's explainable. I feel like this sense of fulfillment, it's pride. Like you feel good, because everybody's having a good time, everybody's happy. It's like an amazing safe space where literally everyone can come together.
Peter Presland, in his book, called it a space to breathe, a space to be yourself.
Well, I mean, with being Black, there's you have that kind of culture that you cherish so much, and I feel like that culture is more brought out in Black Pride than it is in Pride. Especially with things like masculinity, you're always told to hold back. You're always taught to be strong and be manly. When I was in Black Pride, I feel like all of that was thrown out the window.
Yeah.
It's just freedom. Yeah.
There used to be lesbian strength marches, which sounds like a ridiculous name. What's strong about us lesbians? And one year, it was due to start off at Charing Cross, and I found out the NF, the National Front, so major kind of fascist organisation, was having a march along the same route half an hour earlier. And I thought, shit, no, what's this going to be like, Turned out there were 60 of them and they were long gone before the 2,000 of us turned up. Okay. That's the strength, it's the numbers thing, numbers. It's the being in the majority. It's
power as well.
Yeah.
The Black struggle kind of resonates with the gay struggle in that sense where, society makes us feel invisible. And, we feel like we have no place in the world.
To see yourself represented or to hear about people like you doing different things gives you hope, gives you possibilities, lets you know it's acceptable, lets you know it's possible.
For Jemmar.
Yeah.
So we took over.
Okay.
So we've kind of made it like our activist hub. That's where everything goes down for advocacy. And before we were really nomadic with it, but now we have our own place.
And that gives you freedom, doesn't it?
100%.
You can develop your ideas, your thoughts.
It's given me a voice, so I can fight the injustice that I see. And the place has given me just a second home where I can truly be free.
So how much did the squatters movement influence how much work you could achieve?
This was a lace making shop, and the lady who had the lace making shop said, I'll tell you when I'm going to leave, and so you can then take over my property. And she told us when she could leave, and literally we broke through the middle wall here. Yes, and we squatted, and that's how we moved into it. So squatting allowed us to make the changes that we wanted to. In the house I lived in, eventually I met the owner, and he came to myself and my husband after the 81 riots and said to us, no one is ever going to want to live in Brixton. Make me an offer for this house and you can have it. And we said £6,000, and he said no, 7, and we bought the house.
You bought a house for £7,000?
On Mayo Road, 112.
How much is it worth now?
$1 million.
This is us laughing and we can never afford a house in London. Gentrification.
I guess I didn't see it on the vast scale like rent and stuff, because that doesn't really affect me. Or like the minute scales like prices and like local chicken and chip shops going up. That's what really affects me the most, because like that's what some kids rely on for dinner. And if they can't even afford that and this is their home, what are they really supposed to eat?
£2 for wings and chips.
I was like, what? Without a drink?
Now it's going up to £3.
I got involved in my campaign because in school we had to do our IT coursework, and to do that you obviously require a computer, but my mum didn't have the financial resources to get me a new laptop. So everybody went in school, they're like, yeah, I've done my coursework, and I hadn't done my coursework. And I didn't feel like the confidence to tell a teacher about my like situations at home and stuff. She like literally just labelled me as a disgrace in front of the whole class. So I joined the academy basically so the future of like the education system, like students won't have to go through what I went through, and also like my kids won't have to go through what I went through, because no one should really experience that. I wanted to know more about the Brixton uprising. Can you tell me like what started it and what happened during that process?
Before the uprising, there was a lot of police oppression in the area, and the Brixton police decided in its wisdom that it would introduce something called Operation Swamp. And as you walked up and down what was the front line into main Brixton, they would stop everybody. But what triggered it was a young man, I think his name was Ben. He was stopped and searched at the very top of Relton Road, and the police attempted to arrest him, and he fought the police. And then the whole place erupted. And it was a vicious riot, and it was targeted. It wasn't just people burning and looting, which is what people think. There was a pub called the George, which wouldn't serve black people. So they burnt down the George, they hijacked a bus, which was probably my highlights. The thing about the insurrection in Brixton is that it had 100% support of the community in Brixton. So the collective was 8 women and 6 men. So you wake up in the morning and your whole life is devoted to what you believe in. That is a very, very powerful feeling, very powerful feeling. You know, we've probably got 4 or 5 campaigns on the go. We've got a magazine to bring out. We've got interviews to do. The other feeling, of course, is that we believe Brixton belong to us. So my joy would be getting my bag and go for a walk in Brixton and knowing everybody, saying hello, going to sign on to get my £30. I must say my husband's sister worked in the dole office, so it was quite easy. I didn't have to queue up to get my £30. So a feeling of being completely in control of your own agenda and your own life. So it's just a feeling of freedom, of liberation, really.
Like when I started campaigning at like the Advocacy Academy, feeling like, wow, I can actually like do this, I can actually create change. It makes you feel empowered, like you are ready, and all you need to start is just passion, and we have the passion, so we can make change.
I'm drunk and say I'm mad. They say I'm crazy and say I'm bad, but I'm okay, cause I think I'm gay. Rock and roll, okay, tra la 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 la. I'm drunk and say I'm mad. I came to London in '69, and I was gay then. I met lots of other gay people who told me about 78 Railton Road, being a community, the first community centre, gay community centre in London. And it was a squat. They had arguments with council in order to try and keep that gay centre open, but there were too many people complaining about it with noisy music and things like that. They used to dance in the basement.
I was going to say, was it noisy or was it just...
Well, it wasn't that noisy, but
Yeah.
it was probably late. And we had little a theatre group called Brixton Fairies.
Yeah.
And they did little plays and things.
Growing up, I wasn't very feminine. Or some people always speculated that I'm a lesbian. I remember one time me and my sister going to argument and I was like, you're dumb. She's like, you're stupid. I'm like, you're fathead. She's like, you're gay. I'm like, what? What? I was like, we're in the middle of argument. Why are you even saying that? She's like, aren't you gay? I was like, no. And I wasn't sure. I've always wondered about my sexuality and even just like me as a person, because being called a girl or princess, all these kind of things, was just so offensive to me, because I was like, I'm hard, I'm bad, I'm a boy. I remember when I was a kid I wanted to be a boy and that kind of stuff. I've always been aware of the privilege of being allowed to express myself like that. Do you identify as queer?
I was just saying,
You just say gay. My friends like oh my, they're like, every day these people add a new thing to their title, and I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, it's LGBT, what is it next? And then basically I did this joke where like I list every single one, and I'm like, asexual, intersex, questioning, queer, and they're just like, what?
it's all too much.
Do you think it's too much? Do you think so?
I'm too old to think about sex anymore.
No, that's a very ageist statement there.
What?
Ageist statement.
Anyway, I don't really think about it.
Do you see your work in terms of like gay rights? Not as done, but like
It sort of feels like it's all done in a way, but there's still people being attacked, like those two women who were attacked on the tube.
Yeah. That leads to a question about Brixton. A lot of people associate it with the Jamaican community, the Caribbean community. I know I do, and that's purely because I open my front door and I walk down Railton Road. I'm going to see the friends of my parents. But you guys were there, you existed, you still exist. So you felt welcome when you came to Brixton?
Well, I mean, eventually people got used to it. Yeah. There was lots of squatting going on down this street. It was because there was a compulsory purchase order on parts of the street. Here they were going to widen the road, but they ran out of money, or it never happened.
Yeah.
So that's why lots of squatters moved in. Eventually came some arrangement with Lambeth to pay a small amount of money, like £3 a week rent or something. But we became a housing co-op in 1978.
So through the squatting is how you became?
And it's through the squatters. First we called ourselves Brixton Gay Community Housing Co-op, but we combined with other people in the area and formed Brixton Housing Co-op.
This is all, learning about you is just all new stuff to me.
Yes, and what's this, the activism with the young girls in Jamaica?
When I got to like university, my friends in Jamaica, they got to university, we started to realise that we grew up in a very like bad environment to be a young girl. So I got like a bunch of my friends who are from different places, Trinidad, Tobago, Dominica, Antigua, to send me videos of them talking about what it's like to be a woman in the Caribbean, and what they think of feminism, what do they think of toxic masculinity, what do they want the Caribbean community outside of the Caribbean, so here in the UK, in the States, that kind of stuff, what can they do to help?
Sounds like a hard job.
It's a hard job, and I kind of love it, but I kind of hate the word activist, but it's something that I plan to dedicate my life to do.
Why is Loughborough Farm like so important to you?
I come here before 2 years. I love it. I want to come every week to improve my language, to mix with the people, different culture.
Key thing is about doing something together, because you get to know people without even realising you're doing it.
I felt a bit useless. Like, at this time of my life, it felt like, well, most people are going to start thinking about retiring, you know, and I'm kind of creating a new life, and this place has supported me. So it feels like something's growing, and maybe 2 years ago or even a year ago, couldn't see out of where I was. It was quite dark. I had a question, which was why you would have chosen the farm as being like activism.
You talked about it being a place that gives you a sense of belonging, gives you a place to connect with people in your community, and that in a sense is making change.
I could say that in the old days, probably activism for me meant doing something very active. Breenham Common came in the mid-80s. Lots of protests around military bases where people knew there were nuclear weapons. I've done that, you know, breaking into military bases and jumping up and down and getting arrested and all that sort of thing. I think that's what activism used to mean to me. Now I would say, yes, coming to the garden, I would say is social action, it's activism, because it's doing something for your community.
For me, activism is like, it's something that should kind of like seep into like every aspect of your life. I don't know, this is gonna sound really dumb because it's not really political, but just like noticing that like the plants like outside your block aren't being watered properly, and then you just like go out and do it yourself.
I think it's taking responsibility, not just thinking it's going to be done by someone else.
I always used to think that in the future, if I was to have children, would I want them to live in this world? And that used to lead me to think about all the things that I thought was wrong with the world. And I thought that the educational system, would I really want to put my children through all of that to become just another face in the crowd? Even if, let's say, students were just 20% of our current population, they're still 100% of our future. And the fact that they're not being trained or taught efficiently or in the best ways to help them take control of their future, which is our future, is just really, it's just my major pet peeve. Not even a pet peeve, it's just like a major axe I want to grind.
One of my biology teachers, rather than having a normal biology lesson learning about like the structure of like glucose as a molecule or whatever, she just taught us about self-care. So I talked to her about how I was feeling and what I was going through, and I opened up about my suicidal thoughts. And after that, I was passed on to the sixth form team, who were less effective, to say the least. They never really tried to understand how they could best help me. I just wasn't comfortable like moving forward with my life, knowing that there are so many other people who are in my situation. That's why I co-founded Crazy Talk. Yeah. There is a youth mental health crisis in London. We went down to Westminster Bridge and we made these kind of like dummies, I guess. We made one for each young person that had committed suicide the year before. And we tried to use it as a way to facilitate the meaningful conversation that we had in mind.
Well, I suppose the biggest part of mental health problems is that isolating yourself. The way it's seen, like medically, is that it's something permanent. That when you come together with people, you realize everyone has these issues.
Community projects where people can come along, find a role, make things happen, change things, actually gives back people's feeling of power, that they can actually do things. And I think that's been lacking because of what's happening in national government and other things, where we're all beginning to feel helpless and that we can't actually determine anything anymore. And this garden is a really good example of it.
So my mum made this for my birthday, and it's a cyanotype of the Aylesbury estate. I grew up in Elephant and Castle. The Haygate's gone, it's been demolished, and Aylesbury, like, they're also having the same problems. And so yeah, I bought it as like a object of solidarity, I guess. Elephant and Castle, like when I was growing up there, had such a massive soul that I just feel like it's just gradually being taken further and further away. It's the same as in Brixton, like the soul is just like being replaced by like empty cartons, like Box Park and Elephant Park.
Before they knocked down, I think it was the Haygate that goes on to Old Kent Road. I've got a friend who lives in Bermondsey, and we're just kind of walking around there, and it was all pretty much boarded up, but we managed to get in. And I think there was 1 or 2 people still living in houses who were refusing to move. We got over, and it was like kind of a biosphere, you know.
How did you get in?
I think we just climbed over a wall.
Really?
Yeah. But I thought it was really beautiful.
When I got offered the place at Cressingham, I was over the moon. At some point during that time, I'd actually had a text from someone I know who's been very, very active in housing. Hi Anne, heard you moved to Cressingham. Do you know about the demolition?
Oh my
gosh. And I was like, had a little bit of a manic defence response to the situation, and just thinking, I'm just going to go there, I'm going to fight.
Did you feel really angry?
I felt scared, and I felt angry with Lambeth that they would put a person who they knew from their own records was bipolar into a precarious situation. So I was absolutely furious with the council for that.
But it's like, it's horrible because it's like the one place where you're meant to feel the most stable, most safe, most secure, and you can't even come home and feel that.
Some of the activism that we have done has kind of given us a huge amount of strength, but it's just the amount of energy that it sucks out of you sometimes. I mean, I think there was a period where we just used to have meetings about it all the time, and I used to come down in my dressing gown and my pyjamas and like come into the room and go, I'm absolutely fed up of having to come to meetings about where I live.
You know, we all went to the town hall on the very first demo, and some of the banners said no social cleansing, and I remember thinking, I think that's going a bit far. I don't think that's what we're up against. But actually, as time went on and as I learned, I thought, actually, it really is social cleansing.
But I think it's a byproduct, though, don't you? The social cleansing. I think initially, all the stuff is just about the money.
It's like a byproduct, but also it feels very purposeful as well. It feels because like money, that's who it brings. I think that like a lot of these flats are being demolished for luxury flats that like are not social housing, that like people like us can't afford to live in. Yeah, especially when you're knocking down like people's restaurants, businesses, you're forcing these people out. I think it's I can't see it as a byproduct. I see it as very purposeful.
So it is absolutely deliberate, because when they come out with the word social mix, and we all said, well, we've got one, thank you very much. Yeah, exactly. Basically, they want to water down working class people because they think working class people are basically all going to drag each other down.
So what is actually happening here right now?
We made an application for a right to manage and a right to transfer. And the right to manage just means we can look after the repairs and the maintenance of the estate, which we've won. We've now got a letter from the Secretary of State supporting the right to transfer, so it's absolutely massive. Yeah, it would mean that we could implement the People's Plan. I feel like there's this kind of army of love out there, the very old-fashioned view of struggle was a kind of mass strike and a mass this and a mass that. But I think also in smaller struggles, you know, we have a space to dream, if you like, about maybe not what a better world is, but what a better estate is, and if you have a better estate, if you have better homes, all that to me is a very concrete example of building a better world.
Mm-hmm. Knowing that like the community of people that want change and want more isn't as small as the people that, you know, the army of love, right? And it's like actually it's massive, and there are a lot of people like who want to see change in a lot of the same areas as you, and so like I think conversations like these make me feel hopeful.
When I found out that there was actually like a Latin woman like you that was actually doing activism from before, I was very kind of surprised and interested and obviously excited because, well, first of all, she's from my estate, from Brixton, both Latina, both women.
How did you get involved with activism?
With me, I've always kind of been angry about certain social issues, but I didn't really know how to kind of use the anger for good, because there's no point of just being angry about something if you're not willing to put the action in it to kind of change it. To you, what does it mean being a Latin American activist?
You know, the Latin American community in Brixton was really Colombian and Ecuadorian.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I always felt like connected to it, but not part of it.
Yeah.
I got in touch with the history of kind of black activism and the political philosophy of black activism, and I felt very close to that. Maybe in the Latin American community, I didn't have the same political common ground.
So, for example, with Olive Morris, like, what made you kind of want to preserve her legacy?
At the beginning, it was just curiosity, because I thought, you know, who's this woman?
Yeah.
I think I quite liked the fact that she was a very kind of contemporary activist. It wasn't based on representation. No? She wasn't like a leader that would speak for others. She was a grassroots organizer, and she would never occupy a position of representing others. I felt very inspired by that.
¿Quieres hablar en español?
Bueno.
¿Sí? ¿Qué cree que hace Brixton especial con el activismo?
Hay como dos tradiciones políticas que conviven en Brixton. Una es la de los inmigrantes caribeños, esa lucha antirracista, que es como increíble. O sea, es una gente que tiene esa inmigración que llegó en los años 50 con una dignidad tremenda, y que se encontraron con una situación de hostilidad bestial, y cómo ellos se organizaron en torno como a la defensa de sus derechos. Y el otro es como toda esa tradición más vinculada quizás al movimiento de squad, como una tradición política más de la clase trabajadora inglesa, y esas dos cosas juntas y articuladas le dan como ese carácter muy combativo, ¿no? ¿Cómo está el barrio?
El barrio está lo mismo, no ha cambiado tanto.
Vivía mucho en el barrio, o sea, yo hacía toda mi vida ahí. Yo siempre participé mucho, y eso es algo que realmente yo descubrí en Brixton, como eso de local politics. Tell me, how are things now in South London? What are the issues?
Oh, there's a lot. Where do I begin? Right now, there's a lot of issues regarding gang violence and gang culture and stuff. So, but I think also just a more general issue in Brixton, like in particular, is like gentrification. The prices are just crazy, and so they're evicting a lot of people. Am I gonna have the chance to actually stay here, or like belong here, or afford to live here? It was like 3 or 4 or even 5 like Latin American shops. There was a butcher's and just a lot of Colombian restaurants, but now it's turned into Sports Direct that are just taking away the whole culture of Brixton. And it's sad because that's where your family used to go and shop and stay, but not anymore. ¿Y usted qué piensa del futuro de Brixton?
No sé, eso preguntas para vos.
Pues en estos momentos creo que ya no hay tanta diversidad como había antes. Entonces no sé si todavía la esencia cultural va a quedar, pero creo que la historia todavía queda.